Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to the 40-second Xamarin Annotator tutorial. So this video is going to be a continuation of the previous two. So if you're just coming in right now, make sure you do check out the previous two videos, and that's where we're going to be setting up the Google Maps and then also going over map types. Okay, so this is going to be the third video on Google Maps, and here we're going to be working with markers. All right, guys. So here we have a basic marker set up, and we have some. We now can drag the user, and then if you stop, it'll actually put an event when you stop and then give you a latitude and longitude of where the user stopped and put the marker. So there's some stuff that you could do with markers, and you can customize markers and add some stuff. And so this whole video is going to be basically dedicated on just playing with markers and just getting more acquainted with them. Okay, guys? So let's get started with that here. Okay, so here in our setup map, this is basically all that's going on right now, okay? And then it calls the get map async, and then it comes into on map ready, which is called by the interface. Okay, so when this is done, creating a map, it'll come into here, and then this is where we could do really pretty much anything that we want to do after that, okay? And this is where we're going to put markers and stuff like that, okay? So let's add a marker, okay? So the first thing we want to do is we want to do mmap, okay? And then we want to do add marker. And if we look into the IntelliSense that add marker method takes, it takes marker options, okay? So it takes an object of marker options type, okay? So before we add a marker, let's make an instance, let's create an instance of marker options, okay? So we want to do marker options, and we want to import that, call it options, equals new marker options, and there we go. Okay, so we have an instance of options. All right, so now let's start setting some properties of marker options of this instance of it. Okay, so position is set position. Okay, so we need to set the position, and this is actually required. Okay, so it's the only thing that's actually required on a marker to do. Okay, so in this case, let's set a position which takes a latitude and longitude. Okay, so a latitude and longitude is something that we're going to be working with a lot in maps, and if you're going to work with a lot with maps, you're going to probably have to get acquainted with latitude and longitude if you're not already. But basically, it's just a coordinate system to pinpoint locations on Earth. Okay, so let's create an instance of a latitude longitude. Okay, so we'll call it lat long equals new lat long. And do that launch, and the constructor takes two doubles. Okay, so a latitude and longitude position. Okay, so in this case we're going to want to feed it a latitude of 40.776408, and then we're going to want to feed it a longitude of negative 73.970 755. Okay, and this is going to be the coordinates of Manhattan, New York. Okay, so I mean, it really doesn't matter where you guys set this, but these are just the coordinates that I'm going to use for this example. Okay, so we have a lat launch position. Okay, so that's what it's going to set the position at this marker at. Okay, so we'll feed it that, and that will suffice. And that's the way that's all you really need to just get a marker on screen. Okay, but we're going to set a few more properties, and that's going to be a title. So we want to set a title so when we click on it, that a info box will come up and it'll say something. So we'll just say that this is where it's at. And the last thing we want to do is we want to set a snippet. So a snippet is like a subheading that's further explains more stuff. Okay, and if this isn't here, guys, what it'll do is because both of these are here, the title and the snippet, what it does is creates an info window. Okay, so if this wasn't here, if it was just set title, it would just have a basic title, whereas in set snippet it sees, okay, a title and a snippet, then I'm going to make a window just to display a little more options. Okay, so now we have our options. Let's go back to adding the marker. Okay, and then we can just pass it options. All right, so just to recap, we have a latitude longitude, which is going to, let's just do New York, And we're gonna make options or marker options, which is the marker takes, which is just setting the position of the marker, the title, and the snippet. Okay. So let's go ahead and run this, guys, and make sure that this is working. And actually, by default, it's not draggable. Okay, so the user will not be able to drag the marker by default. Okay, so you actually have to set that when you're creating the options, or set it after. Okay, so as you can see right here, now where's our marker? You know what's going on, but by default, this is where Google Maps takes us, is right here in this in this this position. Okay, so our marker's over here, we can see it, but that's kind of cumbersome, so we're going to fix that next. We're actually going to move the camera where the marker is at. Okay, so we're going to pan it over to there. So if we do a couple double clicks, we can come into here and we can see that our marker is in fact where we want it to be. Okay, so we click on it, it'll come up and says New York, the Big Apple, exactly like we want. And notice that when you hold it, though, you don't get that drag effect. Okay, so that's something that we're going to have to actually implement ourselves. No big problem. And then actually, another thing is what we want to be able to have it go straight to our marker. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to move the camera next. Okay, so there's a few things that we need to work on, but we do have a marker going and it's working perfectly as of right now. So let's do this first. Let's set it to draggable. Okay, so we'll set draggable to true, so that way the user can drag it. Okay, and if we haven't set it to draggable while we're creating it, that's not a big problem, but we won't do draggable anymore. We'll actually do options is draggable, and then we'll set that. Okay, but since we're setting it on creation, we'll just set draggable and set it true in the parameter. Okay, so now the user will be able to drag it. Okay, that's good. And then now, like I said, when the application first starts, remember how it kind of just put us away from the marker and it has a default location. So it would make sense to pan the camera over to the location of where the marker is, which is right here in this lat longe position. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that, guys. Let's go ahead and move the camera. Okay, so before we ever create the marker, we're gonna do something else. We're gonna move the camera, and here we do move camera. Okay, and notice that move camera takes a camera update type. Okay, so it takes an object of camera update type, and the way we get that is pretty simple. We can do a camera update factory. Okay, so let's do camera update, and then we'll do camera equals, and we use something that's called a camera update factory. Okay, and then the inside of camera update factory, there's actually a static method that does new lat longe. Okay, so new lat longe we pass it in the lat longe that we want, and it'll take us there. Or we can do lat longe zoom, where it'll take us to the lat longe, the position that we want, into the zoom. Okay, so let's do that one so that it's kind of zoomed in already, because you notice the last time I had to zoom in a little bit, where this time it's actually going to be zoomed in a little bit for us. Okay, so we'll pass it lat longe, and then before that, let's first move this up here so that we can use it and it's in scope. So we'll pass it the lat longe, the same that the marker is going to be at, and we'll pass it a value of 10, which is going to zoom us in with a value of 10. Okay, so not too much zoomed in, but a good amount. Okay, so that's going to camera update factory, and then new lat longe. Notice that it sends back a camera update, which is exactly what we want. And here we'll feed it in the camera. Okay, and there we go. So let's go ahead and run it again, guys, and see that what happens is what we should expect is that the marker should now be draggable, and the camera should now be at a point to where we can see the marker right when the map starts up. Okay, and there it is. Okay, so it's now angled and it's now focusing on this lat longe right here in the middle. Okay, so that's exactly what we wanted. And then here, it's now letting us drag the marker wherever we want. Okay, so now what's going to happen is the there is no event on it, but what we can do now is we can set an event to where when it's done dragging or when it starts dragging or anything, where the user sets it, we can get that lat launch position. So let's go ahead and do that next, guys, and just so that we can see how that's done. So let's come into here and let's make it to where an event is called when the user is done dragging the marker. Okay, so we can actually do that down here. We can do mmap dot marker drag end plus equals. There we go. Okay, so now this is going to be called when the user is done dragging. Okay, and then from here, guys, we can do lat launch, and then we can get the marker that is done, the marker that was finished dragging. Okay, so now at this point we have the marker, and we can do dot position, which sends back a lat launch. Okay, and then we can do something like, you know, if you want to see it real quick and what it is, we could do position dot toString, and that'll give us the lat launch that the user dropped it at. Okay, so that's one thing that we can do. So we'll test that here in a second. But another thing that we can do is we can add another marker, and what we can do with that is now what we can do is we can set it next to it, and we can set a click listener on each marker, and then we can see that we can make the camera zoom in or focus on each one. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that, guys. So let's add another marker. Okay, so let's go ahead and add, see, what we'll do is we'll do it down right here at the bottom. We'll make another marker, and here we'll do it in a little different of a fashion. We'll do add marker. Okay, and then we'll do new marker options. Okay, and then we'll just set it right here. Okay, so set position, and we're gonna do another lat launch. Okay, so we'll do lat launch 2, we'll call it, equals new lat launch. And then this one's gonna be pretty close to where we're at already, but let's just do some easier numbers to work with. We'll do -73. Okay, so now we're going to have that new lat launch. Let's use that to set our second marker, and then we'll do set title. We'll do marker 2, and then we'll do, let's see, this one we'll do set. This one we won't set a snippet, since we'll see how that looks when we don't set a snippet. And then we don't have to set it to draggable, of course. We'll just set the other one to draggable. Okay, so that's going to add a new marker. So it's going to be our second marker. So marker 2, marker 1. All right, so on each one, let's set a click listener. Okay, so what we can do is we can do mmap marker click. Okay, plus equals. And now this is called when a marker has been clicked. Okay, so what we can do is we can do e.marker to get the actual marker that was clicked. Okay, so we don't know which one is clicked at this point, but that once we hit e.marker, we can figure out which one it is that it's been clicked. Okay, and we can get its lat launch and some of its other property values. Okay, so we'll do lat launch. Okay, so to get the position. Okay, we'll do position equals e.marker dot position, much like we're doing right here. But now we're actually going to animate the camera and move it to the position of the marker. Okay, so we'll do mmap, and then we'll do animate camera. Okay, and then we'll do we'll do camera update factory, just like we did above, and we'll do new lat launch. Okay, and we'll pass in the position that the marker was at, and then we'll pass in the zoom level of 10 still. Okay, and these are all, of course, values that you guys can play around with and just kind of get yourself even more acquainted with maps. And that's kind of what we're doing here, just kind of messing around with stuff and just getting more acquainted. And hopefully once you see all these things that are being done, then you can start to really think about things that you can integrate and some cool stuff that you can integrate with your own application. Okay, so now that we have that, that's going to animate the camera every time a user clicks on a marker. Okay, and animate to the position of that marker. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that, guys. Let's see what Let's see what we got going on over here. Okay. All right, so we got our map. Let's see if we can zoom out a little bit. All right. And just something that I didn't put in actually was 2. Okay, so they were actually directly on top of each other. So let's go ahead and run this again. All right. Let's make sure that we can see both of them. So they should be close, but now they should be at least somewhat apart. Okay, so now here is this one. Okay, so here we go. Now we have 2 markers. Let's kind of zoom in a little bit. And you see how when I clicked on it, it took me to that one. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that again. There it goes. So now it's animating to where we're actually clicking. Okay, and what's cool about this, now we can drag this one. So we can kind of drag it over here, all the way over here, and then click on it. And there it goes, okay? So that is working the way we expect it to. Drag it over here. Kind of zoom out a little bit. All right. Looks good, okay? And also, notice that if you look on the console, it should be actually firing the on drag and click event too, and giving us the latitude and longitude at that point as well. Okay, so that's looking good. That was working the way we expected to. So that's just another example of how to animate, of course, like a camera, how to move it. Mainly just giving it a lat longe and a zoom position is going to suffice. So as you can see, guys, there's really a lot of stuff that you can do with these markers. There's even more than what I've showed you. You can change the anchor to where it will rotate about, like it'll rotate with respect to like the user's angle. So setting the anchor point, it'll cause the marker to be rotated around its center. If you set it to 0.5 and 0.5, because it takes 2 values. And it will rotate the marker 90 degrees when you set the rotation. So like there's a lot of stuff that you can do with this. You can also do a set an icon, a custom icon. So there are many things that you can do, just kind of play around with it. But hopefully that gives you a good indication of what you can do. Okay, so one thing else I wanted to show you is just how to kind of just change the icon, in particular to change the color. Okay, so you can do what you can do is you could do bitmap factory, and you can do default marker, and then you can pass in a color. Okay, so if you do like blue or something like that, that should work. And that way that marker is going to be a different color than the other one, the marker 1. So that's just an easy way to kind of just make it a little more custom without doing too much work. But let's see, where is it at? Okay, so there it is right there. So that's our custom marker right there. So that's just one thing to make it look a little nicer, or to change it according to your app or something like that. Okay, so like I said before, there's a lot of things that you can do with these markers, but hopefully the basics, that you can get the basics down right here, which is pretty much just setting lat longitudes and some click listeners to listen to what your users are doing and to act accordingly. All right, so in the next video, what we're going to be doing is taking a look at info windows. Okay, so info windows are basically custom views that come up when a user clicks on a marker. So if you ever use Google Maps and you've seen like a custom window, when you click on it, something comes up like a picture, text, or something. That's an info window. Okay, so the info window is, like I said, a custom view that we create ourselves, and then we inflate after the once the user clicks on the marker. Okay, so that's something that's pretty important. I think it's used heavily, so I'll make sure I brush over that, and then just a few other things like drawing on the map, like polygons and lines and stuff like that. Okay, so that's going to be all in the next few tutorials, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching, guys.